flooded, and one that was flooded before isn't anymore, so they're able to hike that out. So you have two dives, and then once they get to chamber 3, that was kind of like a way station, if you will, for rescuers operating inside the cave. We were hearing once they made it to that stage, they hiked all the way out of the cave, and that's about 3 kilometers. So yeah, it seems as though if this went successfully, and it sounds like it did, 2 boys are already out, that you would think that they would go the same way and at the same pace. But again, there could be some changes that have gone on in the cave, good, bad, indifferent. But right now you would imagine that they have now at least gone through, so they have best practices, so they know what didn't work, what was more challenging. And so most likely, we'll hopefully see a couple more boys come out over the next couple of hours, and then yes, they'll start again with the next group. Now we're hearing this could take 3 to 4 days, so we're seeing the merits of this first rescue mission. 3 boys out and now in the field hospital here at the mouth of the cave.
And I suppose a lot of people holding their breath, Scott, to see what condition those boys are in, because let's not forget they've been in that cave fairly weak for more than 10 days now.
Absolutely, yeah. It was 2 weeks in a day, 15 days, 15 nights in that cave. And we know that some of them were pretty weak. They were malnourished, obviously. It was Monday when they were discovered. They haven't really been eating that much solid food. Initially, they were getting high-energy gel, high-protein gel that they were eating, because you can't just go straight into solid food after not having any food for so many days. We know that they've been trying to build their strength over these days before they were going to make a rescue attempt. And we know that the boys, 12 boys and their coach, the 25-year-old coach, had different degrees of malnutrition, different degrees of health. We know that some of them started to feel the impact of oxygen deprivation inside that cave. It wasn't to an emergency level, a dangerous level, but we know that the oxygen level in that part of the cave where the boys were started to decrease. That was another concern that really kind of instigated the quick move of this rescue effort that we've seen today. Now, also, in other sections of the cave, we also know that the oxygen level started to decrease, particularly in the caverns that I was talking about, where a lot of those rescuers were staging equipment and kind of operating from inside the cave. There was worry that not only for the boys' oxygen level in their part of the cave, but also for the rescuers in there. So that put another kind of impetus, if you will, to get these boys out and get them out quickly.
Yeah, Scott, and speaking of the rescuers, we know that there are 13 foreign divers, and there are 5 Thai Navy SEALs. What are the risks for them in this massive operation?
High risk, absolutely. Just a couple of days ago, a Navy SEAL diver, a former Navy SEAL diver who came back to help with this effort, he died from a lack of oxygen. There was something that went on with his tank, or he was in the water too long, so he passed out in the water, was dragged out, tried to be resuscitated, couldn't, and he died. So obviously the dangers for the divers are immense. And when you think about now, what they've been doing over the last, just under 2 weeks, is really try to make this passage as safe as possible. That means it was very, very dangerous before they started to probably chip away some rock of low-hanging bits when they were the sections where they had to dive. So it's very dangerous work for them. And also now, even now, when they're diving with the boys, we're told that there are 2 divers with each boy. It's a 2 plus 1, if you will. So 2 divers per each boy. So you've got one with the oxygen tank kind of helping the boy go through, and then you've got another one also assisting in that process. Now, we know that there's communication between them, because one of the bigger concerns when they started training the boys on the basics of diving was the panic factor. That's something that diving experts have been talking about for days. This is, for a brand new diver, there's the panic factor to begin with, but a cave dive with very low visibility and very tight quarters, obviously there's a bigger panic factor. So they were really worried about that, and what's important for that is communication. So all the diving experts were saying that there needs to be communication between those buddy divers and the boy himself. So obviously that is something that they're concerned about. So you've got this very complex, very technical dive that these divers are doing. They've already gone in, so they already have a dive under their belt, if you will, for the day, and then they have to really kind of go slowly and protect this boy as they dive all the way back. Again, a very technical dive. So it's very dangerous for the divers, and this is something that they've been very proud. The the mission commander here saying that, these 13 foreign divers are some of the best in the world, and the 5 Thai Navy SEALs are the best Thai Navy SEAL divers. So they put together, they say, the best team possible to bring these boys out.
Just take us back for a moment, Scott, while I have you with us, and remind us how this all came about.
Well, it all started on June 23rd. The boys were playing, they're part of the Wild Boars soccer club here. They were having a practice match on Saturday, June 23rd. And what they've done several times before, they took kind of a team-building recreational hike through the cave, which is very, very close to where their soccer field is. And in fact, that helipad, that temporary helipad that I was saying that they might be, the boys who are out now might be transported from, is their football field. And I can hear the helicopter right now. So they played the match, practice match, and then they went into the caves. And then there were torrential rains, and their exit was blocked. And actually, I'm hearing a helicopter, I believe, taking off now. And that's the first time we heard a helicopter actually take off. Yes, I can see it over here. It was one of the bigger Thai military helicopters that was on that helipad that was the boys' football pitch. Now, we can't draw too many conclusions, but I would assume that is a medical transport going on right now. Again, that field was very close to right there where the mouth of the cave was, where the field hospital is. So that helicopter just took off now. So going back to that, so on the 23rd, they went into the cave for a hike, 12 team members and the coach, something they've done plenty of times. We spoke to a shop owner who sold them snacks and water before they went in, but just that. They went in, flash floods, torrential rains. Their only exit was blocked off. And then they were missing for quite some time, found by 3 British divers, essentially who were at the end of their rope. We hear stories that they were, because when these divers go in, there are ropes that kind of help them get in and get back out the same way. And they were leading a rope or setting a rope, and they literally only had a couple of feet left, so they broke the surface, and the boys were there. So then, since then, they've been trying to figure out a way, the rescue officials and the mission commander have been trying to figure a way to get these boys out. It's gone from everything from us joining rescue teams up in the jungle in these mountains looking for ways down into the cave. We've been told that they were trying to drill in certain ways. They brought up high-tech equipment to find out where there were fissures, where there were natural holes to try to get to these boys. So many options were being looked at. But obviously now it was deemed that the best way to get them out was the way they went in. And there are a couple of factors as to why that most likely was the best way to get them out. Very little rain over the last couple of days, a lot of pumping. Pretty much since the boys, the rescue effort, search and rescue effort at that stage, to find the boys first started, pumping started almost immediately to get the water out, to get the water level low so divers could go in and do their search. That has been continuing straight the way through. And we've heard over the last couple of days that the water went to the best level it has been since this rescue operation started. So that was obviously a major factor for them pulling the trigger on doing this rescue operation today.
Okay, Scott Heidler, we'll leave it there. We thank you. We'll be coming back to you a little later on. Scott Heidler giving us the update from Chiang Rai. Now, Charlotte Bellis looks more closely at the enormous challenges, as Scott was saying, in this rescue operation. Take a look.
The Tham Luang cave is in northern Thailand in the Chiang Rai province near the border with Myanmar and Laos. It is one of the longest caves in the country, stretching 10 kilometres through the Doi Nang Nong mountain range. The boys are stuck just past a cavern known as Pattaya Beach. Now, looking inside the mountain, 1.5 kilometres from the main entrance, Navy SEAL teams have set up a base in a cavern known as Chamber 3. 3 kilometres in is Samyang Junction. It forks off to an exit, but that's flooded. The cave widens to large caverns and narrows to passages so small that rescuers need to crawl to get through. The passageway climbs and drops, which means when it rains, water builds up in these dips. 4 kilometres in is Pattaya Beach. The boys are about 400 metres after this spot and 800 to 1,000 metres below the surface. To get the boys out through the flooded patches, rescuers have attached a guideline and dotted emergency oxygen tanks every 25 to 50 metres. The plan is that as they swim, one Navy diver will be beside them, another one behind. Keep in mind, some boys don't know how to swim, there are strong currents, and the water is dark and muddy. They're being given wetsuits, boots, helmets, and a scuba mask. but no tank. The proposal being they'll get oxygen from their dive buddy supply. Now, it'll take at least 5 hours to get each boy out, so in all, it may take a couple of days to complete the rescue.
Let's bring in our Steph Galter to talk more about weather conditions and how it may impact the rescue effort. So as Scott was saying, it was really a race against time, or a race against the rains. And we know that it is monsoon season right now in Thailand. So how great are the risk of showers there?
I mean, it's high at this time of year. It has to be. You get about 300 millimetres of rain in a month, and we haven't had any for several days. So the chance of seeing some in the next day or the day after that are really getting higher and higher. So if the water level was at a low in the caves, now is really the time to go, and go fast, because it's going to take a while to get all of them out. I mean, we've got 2 out. That is brilliant. But there's a lot more still in the cave, and how long will it take to get them out? So we've got another day, probably 2, where there won't be too many showers, it looks like on the forecast. And if that's true, that will be brilliant. We maybe can get them all out in that time, because by Wednesday or Thursday, it looks like the showers will be back. And when they come back, they're likely to be really very heavy.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, when they come back, how is that going to be?
They could be light, they could be heavy. There's no telling with these monsoon rains. But Wednesday, Thursday, it looks like there's more of them in the area. And if you catch one, it could well be very heavy. And that could be all it needs to make the water levels in that cave rise again and make getting them out that more difficult. You have to dive further, you have to swim further, you know, it just makes it more difficult.
Okay, Steph, we'll leave it there. Thank you. You're watching Al Jazeera. Still ahead in just a moment. We meet 4 generations of one Rohingya family who say they faced injustice for decades.